Good Shabbos and good morning. I want to say Chag Sameach because I want to say that today should be the 9th day of Hanukkah. I'm not actually sure why the Chanukiah from last week, the 6-foot-tall brass Hanukkah menorah, which proudly stood here in our Moskowitz sanctuary on the Bima, is away. Why it's already been cleaned and polished and returned to its storage space till next year. Because I want to make a rabbinic ruling that Hanukkah is not over yet. I want to still see the lights. I want to still feel the miracles that are still lighting the way. Because I definitely still feel the latkes and the donuts in my stomach. They'll be there for a while. So why can't today be the 9th day of Hanukkah? Don't Jews that live outside of Israel always add an extra day to a holiday? A 2-day Yom Tov, we call it. So perhaps we can celebrate the 9th day of Hanukkah and honor the miracles in our lives and those to come. I'm probably not going to convince you that today is the 9th day of Hanukkah, but I think we can extend the meaning, the lesson, the spirit, and the light of Hanukkah for more than just 8 days. Because the truth is that Hanukkah doesn't end. It marks a new beginning. When the Maccabees lit the menorah with the single vial of oil that lasted for 8 days, after those 8 days, they didn't put the menorah away. The light didn't go out. The light returned and remained in the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Why? Well, literally because the supply chain was restored. There was once again sufficient pure oil and the temple was back in service. Back then, each day, new light continued to shine in Jerusalem. Hanukkah never ended. It marked a new beginning, a rededication. And the menorah was lit each day, bringing more light to the darkened world. So why not keep lighting the way even though Hanukkah's over? We definitely need more light in this time of darkness. The truth is that for so many of our Israeli family, Hanukkah didn't even start yet. For traditionally, it is Hanukkah's believed to be the delayed celebration of Sukkot, unable to be observed in its normal time during Greek persecution under Antiochus, when the Maccabees defeated the Greeks. Finally, this most important 8-day holiday could finally be observed when they were free in its proper time, but not in its proper time. For each night of Hanukkah, you may have heard this past week that there was a prominent Israeli who refused to light the Chanukiah, the menorah. Her name is Devorah Leshem. Devorah is 87 years old. She is an Olim, an immigrant that moved from Iran, an Iranian Jew that moved to Israel. And she is the grandmother of one of the abducted hostages. Devorah Leshem is the grandmother of Romi Leshem Gonen, who actually has a connection to our synagogue. Romi is a 23-year-old woman taken hostage while enjoying the music at the Nova Festival. Romi's grandmother, Saba Devorah, refused to light the menorah the entire holiday of Hanukkah. Instead, every night of Hanukkah, she knocked on the door of one of Israel's ministers or political leaders, asking each of them to save the light of her life, her granddaughter. Romi's story is not unlike so many others at the peaceful music gathering in the desert. Romi had begun to escape from the Nova concert, hiding in the bushes for hours, calling her family, begging for help on October 7th. She was able to connect with a friend and get in his car and begin their way to safety that Saturday. However, the car was attacked by Hamas terrorists, and they were all shot. While on the phone with her parents, Romi told them that she was bleeding, she was screaming, and afraid. She told her parents, "I'm going to die today." And then they could hear in Arabic the voices of those who abducted her. That was 10 weeks ago. 70 long days. Romy is now in captivity for 10 weeks, 70 days. And Romy's family is pleading with the government and the world to help bring Romy home now. From the recently released hostages from just a few weeks ago, the family was notified that Romy was still alive, and all they want for Hanukkah is for Romy to come home safely. Saba Devora, the grandmother Devora, who is an Iranian-born Jew, even contacted Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini and President Raisi, asking them to do a favor for her, as fellow grandparents of similar age, to help free her granddaughter. This is what her grandmother said, quote, "Romy has my genes, my Iranian blood. They say Khomeini will hear it, and maybe he will help me." Last night, to mark the 9th night of Hanukkah, we didn't light the menorah. We lit candles. We didn't add an extra candle to the Chanukiah or use the shamash, but we lit Shabbat candles. And perhaps like us, you added an extra set of Shabbat candles for the hostages and those who can no longer light. And tonight, on the 10th night of Hanukkah, at the end of Shabbat, we will light once again the Havdalah candle with its braided wicks, once again shining light into the darkness, reminding us that the light in our lives will never fade. In this difficult time of war and terror, with the rise of anti-Semitism on our college campuses and within our own community here in Cleveland, we still put our synagogue's menorah outside on the street, and it's still there, by the way, to be a beacon, to be a sign to all who pass by that light will prevail. Our hope for a new beginning, a dedication, a Hanukkah, will help bring the hostages home. You may remember that the rabbis of the Talmud debate which way to light the Chanukiah. Do we start the first day with all 8 candles burning bright and then decrease the light each day, removing a candle? That's how Shammai taught us to do it. Or do we do like Hillel, start small with just 1 candle, each day adding light until the 8th day when our menorah is full, burning bright? Of course, we follow Hillel's custom because of the concept known as Malin B'Kodesh Ve'en Moridin, that as Jews we always strive to rise up in holiness, not descend. We're taught to increase, to add, and to lift, not to diminish and not to dim. Each day we seek to elevate, to grow, and strive to be better, bringing more light, more healing, more hope. This week's Parsha Miketz begins in a very dark place. Joseph is literally in prison, hopeless and lost, torn away from family. This sounds too eerily familiar, reminding us of the pain and torment of the more than 130 Israeli hostages still in captivity in Gaza, their families, and all of us. Last week's portion ends with Joseph interpreting the dream of the chief butler, predicting that he would be restored to office with the hope that he would share the story of Joseph and that Joseph would then be set free. But the last words of last week's portion are, Lo Zachar. But the butler did not remember, and he was forgotten. We must pledge to never forget our brothers and sisters in peril, in captivity, in Gaza, in darkness. Despite Joseph's difficulties, he was still able to dream in his prison. He did not give up hope. And as Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory writes, Parshat Miketz represents the most sudden and radical transformation in the Torah. Joseph in a single day moves from zero to hero, from forgotten, languishing prisoner to viceroy of Egypt, the most powerful man in the land. For Joseph, his dreams turn into blessings in our Parsha. Why? Because in our Parsha, the chief cupbearer shared Joseph's story with Pharaoh. Joseph was no longer forgotten, for someone made an effort to share his story, and that act alone lifted him out of his prison. There are more than 130 Josephs in our world right now, the hostages. So how can we keep the Hanukkah lights burning for them? How can we bring them home now? How can we make sure that they're not forgotten? We must continue to light their light and lift up their stories. We must continue to share their story, their pain, or hope for their safe return home, calling our elected leaders, putting up signs, talking to our neighbors, co-workers, using our voice to bring them home now. And perhaps we can learn it from the classic song, Light One Candle, where the chorus implores us, don't let the light go out. It lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need. Light one candle for those who are suffering. Light one candle for all who believe. Light one candle to bind us together. This is the burden. This is the promise. This is why we will not fail. Share their story. Shabbat Shalom.